Shall we do it?
Yeah, shall we do it? So travel
Travel.
is the topic of today. So we both traveled quite a bit in our lives. We've lived in a few different countries, and we've traveled on trips in a few different countries. So it's been a big part of our lives, I think, for sure. At least for me.
For me too.
It's been a very central part of my life. And my first ever trip, maybe we should start with that.
Okay.
Start our first big ass trip. So my first ever trip was to New Zealand.
Okay.
And I remember, I don't know how long ago it was. I think it was like 10 years ago. And I was working at a job which I really hated. And I wanted to change something in my life. And I watched a lot of Lord of the Rings movies. So,
Of course, New Zealand it is.
so my inspiration was really like, I just remember rewatching Lord of the Rings and just like, man, I really want to see that. But just a feeling super stuck in my life, like, oh, I'm working in this job that I really hate. I know that, I could see my whole life for like the next 20 years, I would be in Miami. I just knew it, like everything was just worked out. And then I had this weird idea of like, what if I go to New Zealand and just see all the places in the movie? And that idea sort of started like festering. It wasn't like I had the idea and I went on a trip the next day. It just started festering like day over day and months over months. And I started planning it in my head. And then one day I was like, fuck it, I'm going to do it. And I bought the tickets.
Did you want to move away from your job, from your house, from everything? And that's why you were like, okay, I'm going to go as far as I can to a trip. And then it happens that you were watching Lord of the Rings, and you're like, oh, maybe it looks like a nice place to go. Or
No, I think it was a sort of like I needed to escape. From something. It wasn't like I had a really bad life or anything like that, but I felt stuck in my situation. Like I was like, okay, there's no other kind of job that I can have. Like, this is it. I mean, that was not true, but in my reality, I was like, there's nowhere else that I can work. I'm a IT person or a software person. I'm going to work for 10 years and get a promotion here and a promotion there. And I'm going to marry this kind of person. I'm going to live in this kind of house.
so it wasn't related to the FBI looking for you.
No, it was not.
Okay.
Not yet. That came later for another episode.
Okay.
But no, it came, I think for me, it was like, I don't know how, but I knew there was something else for me. And it just was not in the place that I was in. And maybe it was not even with the place, it was with myself, and not feeling like I could change to be somebody else who I wanted to be in my environment. Like people saw me that way. I was a certain way, and then I couldn't get out of it in Miami.
You had to get out some point. You had like a feeling of you not of not belonging, because you fit very well when you were there. You didn't feel like a misfit or anything.
No, in fact, this place that I belong the most.
Yeah,
I think.
So it wasn't that. It was just I need a change in my life. I need
something, and that is how traveling started with me. I need to tourism, and that's how it started.
Interesting.
And New Zealand was like the first thing that came to mind, because
It's very far from Miami.
it was. It's like 20 hours.
Because usually it's like if you are in Miami, you're like, okay, I can go, and then there's tons of other places that are like very close.
That is true.
So New Zealand is very far.
Maybe subconsciously, I also wanted to go far because I really wanted to change something, and I didn't see that change in anybody around me.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I went online and I booked the tickets very like just one day. I after thinking about it for months, I just went one day and I booked the tickets. And then that was it. And then I was like, well, now I have to plan everything else. And I remember getting on the flight with I used to have this military bag that I got in the Coast Guard. It was green and it had no pockets or anything. It's just a green bag, and I just stuffed all my stuff in there. My mom was like really sad. Oh, you're going away from me for a year, and hugged them.
Was it a year? Was it so? It was a return ticket
For 1 year.
for 1 year. Oh shit!
Yeah,
Once a year.
yeah, and it's not like I had a lot of money. I I had like, I think for the whole trip, I had $5,000 set aside. I lived for 1 year.
1 year.
And I planned to work like in farms and hostels and stuff like that to support myself.
Did you know anyone back then that went to New Zealand and was working? How did you know that you could work in New Zealand in farms and shit?
So I went to the New Zealand government website.
Okay.
I saw they had a program that allowed people to get a 1 year visa from certain countries.
Okay.
To get a 1 year visa, and they advertised like you could get jobs in farms, you get like, there's a lot of jobs like in restaurants.
So I had that information.
But it wasn't like a video blog, because back then there was not like video bloggers and travel bloggers explaining this. It was just something that I went to the government website and I was like, is it a possibility? And I learned about this program, and nobody else that I knew had done it, but just,
Right.
and I just had this plan in my head, like, how bad could it be, you know?
Yeah. Like, I'm going, did you quit? So I guess you quit your job.
Quit my job, yeah.
You quit your job, and you're like, Mom, I'm going away.
Mom, Dad,
I'm going away
yeah,
for a year.
going away for a year to look at Lord of the Rings landscapes, and I'm gonna like work in farms and things like that.
Nice.
And I was like, and everybody that I told them, they were like, that's so cool. Oh my God, how did you get this idea? What are you gonna do? Crazy.
And that's the thing, right? It's like most of people, when you say something like this, they're like, you're crazy. This is impossible. And they see it as something that they could never do themselves. It's like something so far from their day-to-day life that when you see, or when people see someone actually doing it, you're like, what? Really? Is this possible?
It's crazy, especially back then, where I think there was not a lot of influencers and travel bloggers like displaying that same kind of behavior.
Yeah.
So it was pretty crazy, I think.
Yeah.
But I just knew like, oh, I got to do this.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I got to do this.
Yeah. Nice. So that was your first ever
And that was,
travel, and it was 1 year.
it was one of
So it's like not small thing, not just, I only just go to Guatemala and come back.
I mean, I've been to trips, right, with my family.
Yes. That's a
We count in Puerto Rico, but
Yeah.
this was different. This was like what I consider my first big step out of everything that I knew.
How old were you back then?
Oof, I think like 24 or something like that.
Right.
That was quite a while.
It's a good age to do that.
A good age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you afraid? Well, I guess New Zealand, they speak English, so it's not, I mean, you know that you can communicate fine. Was it also one of the reasons why you're like, okay, I go there, it's pretty easy to, or not? You didn't think about
Yeah,
that.
but to be honest, Lord of the Rings and landscapes, like
Legolas.
I wanted some landscapes and like, you know, I lived in the city of my life, so it seemed to me like a country that you would get a lot of beautiful views and hikes and stuff like that.
Did it give you what you were looking for?
Yeah, and more.
Okay.
And I think that's where we can get into next, right? For me, it was definitely worth it. It was nothing like what I expected it to be,
Okay.
but it gave me almost my whole life now is because of that trip. Everything that I am now, I completely changed my perception of reality, of myself, of relationships, of everything, of being in a new place by myself. I think the most impactful thing that it did is it allowed me to rewrite myself how I want it to be, which is impossible sometimes to do with people you know.
I mean, you need something like a trigger, something that triggers that change in you in a way, or like to rediscover yourself if you want.
Yeah.
Like in a way. And traveling has this power of doing that to people. But I guess it's like when we say traveling, it's not just like, as you say, not just a weekend away.
No,
That's traveling.
Yeah.
That's different.
talking more like
Life change in traveling.
it's like an adventure more than it's not. Yeah, maybe you can make a distinction between traveling and going on holidays. Going on holidays may be like going to that resort or cruise or something.
Yeah.
And traveling really means like losing yourself in a new culture, going in there and trying to understand it and exploring the place.
Yeah.
It takes almost work from you to
blending in. So it's not that you just go to a hotel and you stay there. You just go eat something and that's it.
That's one of the holidays. Yeah, let's make maybe that's our definition for it.
That's okay, but I think it's good to have because today everyone is like, okay, it's a travel, and we have like a lot of video blogs for traveling, but it's like people going somewhere and then just doing tourism,
checking off like, oh, we saw this museum, we did that thing.
Yeah, that's traveling. Which okay, fine, that's traveling, but that's not going to change people. That's not going to change you.
No,
most of
at least not me.
That's you.
Not us. It might change some people. Like maybe the first time someone sees like the Eiffel Tower.
That's it. I don't think so. I think like today, maybe not today, like even before, like you will travel and then you will just go do the touristic things and then you go back home. And that's like, it's always, okay, I just go back home. I just go and then take photos or videos or whatever of a new place. I eat new food. Then I go back. There's no connection with the culture of that place, usually. You just go and then maybe you talk with some people from the place and that's it.
You consume something from that place and you take it back with you, but you don't really let that place sort of affect you.
Sure. I mean, you are, exactly. But is it something that you can plan ahead to do? I don't know.
It depends on how you go.
I think it's the experience. It's like, I think it's that, maybe what you say, that adventure in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, going through an adventure could change you.
Yeah.
Like, could like show you things of you, of sides of you that you didn't know.
Yep.
Or could like help you to like rethink about relationships or life or anything or everything in a way.
Yeah.
That's an adventure, sort of like. It doesn't need to be like an adventure in the jungle.
Yeah, well, it could be.
It could be, but yeah. Interesting. Okay.
And for you, that first trip, I'm guessing it was in Japan.
I'm in the same. Yeah, I also like my very first trip. Let's say it was Japan.
Or adventure
travel. Exactly. It was an adventure. Exactly. Yeah, I traveled before, right? But then, I think it was like 19 or 20. Like, yeah, like I decided to go to Japan. It's not that I decided. Like so okay, there's an opportunity to go and then study in Japan. And I was like, do you want to go? Okay, fine, I will go. And it's a big step. Like you are like going to the other side of the world.
Yep.
And you don't know what to expect. And also, there's no return ticket. In my case, there was a return ticket, if you want, but open. I said, like, you go to study there. And then eventually when you finish your studies, probably you go back, but it's not defined. So you really don't know what to expect. It's not that you go to the Eiffel Tower or to Paris and then go back.
Yeah.
And like, that's it. It's like, so I think it's the uncertainty of what you're going to find there gives it that sense of adventure in a way.
Yeah.
So for me, it was Japan, and it was the same. It was, 20 years ago. And then, yeah, there was a lot of information online and stuff, maybe if you go, but it's not like today. So you really go and then you have no idea what you're going to find. Actually, all my information was on some papers that I got, some letters that I got from the Japanese government.
On the school that you...
From the government, because it was a government thing, so it was a promotion.
How old were you?
19, 20, yeah.
So you were in your prime.
Yeah.
Just out of high school. And then...
Exactly.
And then why was it that you signed up for this? Was it like, oh, it's an opportunity to
pay for me? It was more like I wanted to travel. I want to see the world.
You wanted to see the world.
I wanted to see other places.
Okay. Were you tired of Argentina? Or you're like, I hate this place right now? Or it's just like, oh, I'm curious of the outside world?
I was more like curious about the outside world. I wanted to like go. I always like TV shows about traveling, going to different places. Like, it's this adventure. You're like a child and then you're reading books, you're watching the Discovery Channel. You're like, oh, I would like to be in an adventure where I go to see all these exotic places, right? And that was kind of like my interest. And then like this opportunity comes up and it's like, okay, it's like, it is an adventure. it is what I want. It is going to a new place and then see it. Why not? Why I will say no? It never crossed my mind to say no because it was like, this is it. It's a big opportunity.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Like how some people presented this opportunity of like, you're gonna go into a new world of uncertainty. You don't know what it's gonna be when you get there. Some people will be like, oh, that sounds amazing. Like, I want that adventure. I'm really looking forward to it. Some people were like, why would you ever go to Japan on your own at 19, 20?
I got it many times. It's like, there were like part of people that I knew who were like, oh, this is amazing. It's an amazing opportunity. Sounds amazing. And then there were a lot of other people who were like, why? No, you are crazy. I will never do it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it was the same. It's like, it's so remote from their daily lives. It's like, no, it's too different to what I know. So why I would want to put myself in that situation? Interesting enough, like remember these guys, because back then I was working on also like IT support and I was doing a job for a guy. And then when I told him, oh, I'm going to Japan in like 2 months, 3 months, then he's like, oh, it's an amazing opportunity, like going somewhere, we are like 19, going to see a lot of things. He gave me a lot of support. And then the interesting thing is like, this guy also did that when he was young. Not to Japan, but like he went to Europe and he was traveling around for like many years. He ended up living in Ibiza, I think, like working there. So a lot of stuff like that. And then he eventually went back but then he saw it. And he was like, yes, like, kind of like, go for it.
Yeah.
So it's like having that opportunity, like, allows you to, like, understand that it's a life-changing experience. And it's a life-changing in a good way.
Yeah.
Even if you go somewhere and you don't have a great time, because that's the thing, right? The uncertainty is that you don't know what you're going to find.
Yeah.
And that may put off a lot of people. Like, I'm afraid, that gives me anxiety, or like it gets me anxious about like going here and like not knowing what's going to happen. But I think even if you go and then you don't know what's going to happen, but even if something not very good happens, that still is an experience that's going to shape you.
Yep.
And I think that's super important, rather than choosing the safety of, okay, I know everything. You don't really grow if you don't leave your comfort. It's not about your comfort zone, right?
That is true. I also, and maybe this is a bit too early to speak about it, but there's also, I think, a beauty to staying in one place that often we travelers, we adventurers, we may look down upon, but I think there's also a beauty of a tree that has its roots in one place and is very grounded and has all these beautiful roots of friendship and relationships that they've put in one place. I think that part of what I lost for traveling so much, right? New Zealand was the first place that I lived, but I think I lived in like 6 different countries. I traveled to a bunch of places, always moved around. One of the costs of that is that I've never been super grounded in one place.
That's true.
And I look at people who have lived all their life, for example, here in the Netherlands, and they have all these relationships. So back in Miami, when I go home, and they have all these really deep-rooted relationships. So I don't think that one way is better than the other one. But personally, for me, I don't know if I would change it. Still knowing that, because it's given me a lot
that's true. It's like that. Everything comes with a cost.
Yes.
And one of the costs, or the price you pay for going into these kind of adventures, where like you leave your hometown and then you travel around and then you live in other places, is what you say. It's like you lose a lot of the connections that you have to your, and that's true. That's the price you pay. And for me, it's the same. It is because I have been traveling around and I'm living in different places. Say, I do have friends in different places, but back home, there's very few people that I still know and that I'm close to. And that's because I didn't grow with them, right? Like you left. So you're now an outsider.
Yeah, in a way, you do become an outsider back to the place that you born or you come from.
I mean, that's not the bad thing necessarily, but it is true that it's a cost that you have to pay, and I don't think there is a way around it.
I think, like you said, everything has a cost associated with it, and a reward, I guess we'll call it.
Totally reward. Yeah, no, exactly. It's like, okay, like all those friends and family and people that I'm not in touch with because I left them when I was, many years ago. Okay, but I want other things.
Yeah.
I know people in different places. I've seen different cultures. So that opens up your mind in a way, I feel. Like being in touch with other people that are not from the place where you were born. And it forces you to see things in different ways.
Yeah, well, I think that's one of the biggest things you gain. Like going back to New Zealand, I remember I was so scared. Like I got off the airport, and first thing I noticed when I looked outside is the cars all driving in the different direction. And it never occurred to me to Google that before I got to New Zealand. I had rented a car in the airport to drive to my hostel because I thought it would be nice to have a car for like 3 or 4 days.
Because you were going from America, so you had to drive.
Exactly. I never even taken like buses or trains. I didn't know that I could take very easily a bus from the airport to the Auckland Central, and it would be okay. I didn't know any of this, but anyways, I'm just so scared, and I get off, and they give me this car, and I'm like, the first time I realized I have to drive on the wrong side of the road. Such a huge obstacle in my first 1 hour of my adventure. But like, I made it, and I got over that, and then that taught me like, okay, I got this. I can do things that I didn't know I could do.
But not in a conscious way, man. Right? It's like back then you were afraid, and then you do it, you arrive to the place, you're like, oh, I made it. And it's not like you start like thinking, oh, if I made it, if I was able to do this, then I can do a lot of other things. It's like you don't consciously think about it, but that's something that is teaching,
But it happens because then a few weeks later, I met some people at the hostel, and then they told me about this place. It's called Hat Sun Beach, I think. We went to it. It sounds cool. Before there were like 1 million people in it, because I've heard now that the beach is fully crowded and you cannot go anywhere. But they were like, hey man, there's this cool beach, Hat Sun Beach. Like we really want to go, but it's far, it's all the way in the north, through a mountainous track. And then I rented a car, and I was like, fuck it, I don't care how rough that track is or how rough that road is. We're gonna drive. And I couldn't imagine myself ever renting another car in New Zealand after my 1 hour experience driving from the airport to the hostel. But getting over that, right? It's like you said, and it has sort of built you up. And
it's in a way that all saying that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's
the same, but
it's very cheery
to it. Yeah,
but there is some truth, and this is one of the things. Okay, like you go through like different experiences, different like obstacles in this, because it's like if you're back home, you always have a lot of obstacles. I don't mean, it doesn't mean that if you never left to New Zealand, you will never have any hardship back home, right? I see it's everyone has them. But in somehow being abroad or being somewhere like far away from everything, and like being by yourself, because I think that's also a good point. Being by yourself, it's like when you go somewhere and then you travel by yourself, and you don't have anyone to ask for help, right?
No,
it's like
or only strangers.
Only strangers. Yes, but like there's not like, oh my god, if I run into a problem, I'm going to just like call whatever my father and then just ask for
hey, could you come pick me up? They drive in the wrong side here.
For example. So it forces you, so it's kind of like, okay, this is it. Maybe this whole like traveling, going to adventures, why it changes, like it's somehow force, like push yourself into a situation where you have to solve problems. right? It's like, which is like out of your comfort zone. But also say, okay, this is it. I have to live here for 1 year in New Zealand with 5,000 euros or $5,000 in my pocket. And that's it. It's like, I cannot call anyone to wire me more money. It's like, this is it. So you're forcing yourself in that situation. So you need to learn how to save money, how to earn some money, how to, whatever, like talk to strangers. So that really puts you in that uncomfortable position.
Yeah.
That makes you, at the end, I think it makes you like a stronger person, maybe. I don't know if stronger is the right word. Wiser.
More resilient person.
Resilient.
Learn, more resourceful as well.
Yeah, true. That could be.
And to me, one of the first things that I noticed when I left home, that just sort of struck me, was that people saw the world differently. So, I have friends in Miami and amazing family, but they saw the world usually in one way, right?
Yeah.
Maybe a very American way and a very Cuban American way.
Yeah.
And I thought that was reality for the whole world, in political ways, in the ways you view relationships. And then all of a sudden, I'm in this hostel with people from Europe and India and Russian and all these kinds of completely different worldviews on life, on relationships, on friendship. And that like just blew my mind. I was like, and it made me feel less weird, because at home, I'd sometimes feel like I'm a little bit weird compared to to my family. I don't see things the way that they always see. Like my notions of what is fun, what I like to do. I like outdoor stuff a lot. Nobody in my family like camping or going hiking.
Okay.
So and neither did the friends most of the friends that I have. So just going there and realizing that, I'm not alone. There's other people in the world that, that feel the same way, was completely awesome for me, because it allowed me to open up parts of myself that I always sort of hid because I thought they were not cool.
Yeah.
Around the people that I knew.
So in a way, another benefit of these adventures of traveling like this is that probably like you get to meet people that maybe share a lot of common things with you that back home maybe you never had the opportunity to explore.
Not even share, but bring out. I read a quote one day that said something like, a good friend is usually someone that brings something out of you,
okay,
that you like to bring out, but you just haven't had it, haven't had the opportunity for it. And so I think that's what happened to me. I met a lot of people who brought up parts of me that normally none of the other friends that I had could, and that was very refreshing for me. And I became like, oh man, this outdoor hiking, Lord of the Ring things. It turns out there's like 50 people here who had the exact same dream. Well, you wanted to like one of the nerd hiker slash hikers who are actually nerds or nerds who are actually hikers place in the world. Yeah, that's to me. So I was like, this is awesome.
Yes, that's a good point. Sure. Yeah. Like those experiences, those people, like me, those other cultures can help you to bring up things from you that you maybe you didn't know about yourself, or at some point you repress them or suppress them.
Yeah. I think that happens very, very easily to a lot of us.
Yeah.
But for you, in Japan, it must have been a bit different, I guess, because you arrive at this place and you don't even speak the language, right? And I guess Japanese culture was very weird. I mean, maybe you're also very weird, so you're like, I feel my weirdness is not so weird. No, but I'm just wondering how that was for you. Like, do you feel it was sort of the same as it was for me? Like, you arrive in this place and you go, I meet a bunch of like-minded people, or was it like, what the fuck are these Japanese people doing? How was it for you?
I think for me, it was. I mean, of course, yeah. I arrived and everything is so different. But then I think one of the things that struck me the most was like, okay, you arrive and then like in Japan, like people wear whatever they want to wear. I mean, there is a lot of cultures where like, okay, you have like, want to be a gothic person, and they really go out and all in with that. I mean, that happens everywhere.
There's acceptance for weatherlets in that sort of space.
Yes, like, which is like, I mean, that also happens in Argentina. It happens in like in many places, but different.
But it's looked down, right? Like you see. I've never been to Japan, but I have been to Latin countries, and there is the goth people, but most moms and grandmas. Look at that.
Exactly. Yeah. And at least like you go around and like people look at you in a way. And not only goth, like whatever, right? In Japan, it's not like that. Like people are like, well, I can just go dressed like this and there's that, etc. So that kind of like was like, oh, this is interesting. Like you actually can do or be whoever you want to be.
Cool. Is that why you dress so weird?
Probably in part, but no, but so I think like but this, and thinking about this now is like, okay, one of the things that I noticed when I arrived to the airport was that like a bunch of people, like different people, dressed like what back home I would call it weird.
Yes,
clothes. But I was like, of course, like, you just arrive like, oh, that person like is wearing this weird stuff. Oh, that person is. But eventually that becomes normal. And you're like, everyone, not everyone, like people do whatever they want. There's like people who wear like, of course, like suits or like normal clothes. And then there's people who wear whatever they want. Like, and then
just interesting.
And that's okay.
Do you feel like that changed the way you dress? Like it allowed you to explore parts of fashion that you would have never done if you've never been there and seen people?
I think it didn't change the way I dress like because of that, but it was more, it helped me to accept and like not to look weird like if someone is exactly people because someone is dressing that. So it opened my mind a little bit to that. It's kind of like, that's fine. And then like somehow my brain stopped telling, oh, that person looks weird, or that person is like, it's like, yeah. Now when I say it, it's like, oh, I was an escort. If I would think like someone like because you're wearing like whatever clothes you want to wear, and then like if I think something about that,
because I smell that.
You know that. It's like
it's because I didn't have the Japanese experience. Yeah, but if I see like a goth person walking down the street, it's not that I think they're evil, but I just am like, what the fuck are they thinking?
Like, why they dress like that?
Why go through all that? But like, I shouldn't. That it is a subconscious reaction that
yeah. Well, that subconscious reaction to me, it was gone after.
That's interesting.
Like living that, and that's one of the things that I guess thinking about that now is like, okay, yeah, that's big change.
But this is the way that traveling does change. It does change a lot of those subconscious mindsets that you have. For me, a very easy one, right, is I thought living without a car is impossible. A car is part of your life until I went to places where there was public transport, and I hated driving after that.
Yeah, you never drive now. You don't like driving.
I hate driving, but before it was like, a car is important, and it has to be a nice car, like, because it sort of represents who you are. So I like I told you before, I spent $30,000 on a Jeep when I was young, and I paid more for my Jeep than my housing at one point. But that's, it was a very different realization once I saw, like, it doesn't matter, like.
Yeah. But that's a subconscious change that living, I think, and that's the thing, I think living abroad, we have been calling it traveling, but I don't know. Should we call it like living abroad?
Yeah, 1 year.
He said living abroad.
Yeah, that's true. But I think also like a 3-month trip could also, because I've taken 3 months trips to somewhere, and it's also changed my views as well. Or
could be, yeah. Like a shorter trip.
Yeah, but there is, like, imagine you never left home before, and the only thing you get is a 3 or 2 month trip. That also, I think, has a significant impact. I don't know, because my first one was 1 year and yours was 10.
I mean, yes. Like that little trip, it ended up being like 10 years in Japan. But I think honestly, we do have a bias there, because I think if you never left, and then if your trip to New Zealand would have been only like a 2 months trip, or my trip to Japan would have been like only 2 months, like a homestay with some family, and then you go back, that also helps you to like see things in a different way. I'm not sure it's like enough time to change your subconscious reactions or like views about that. Maybe it helps a little bit.
Yeah.
But in the back of your mind, it's always that, okay, like I'm here 2 months and I'm going back. I'm going back to what, like from where I am from. And that means that I'm going back to being who I was. So I just been away for 2 months and coming back. It's very hard that will change a lot of things. You go back and then your friends are still there. Everything is the same as you left.
I think what it might do is, you'll be exposed to new ideas, new places, and it might plant a seed, like, that'll grow. Because I've seen that with people, right? They quit their jobs, they go on like some 2-3 months trip, and they come back and right away, I don't see much change, but I can see, that there's a seed in there that starts to grow, and they go like, they start to question a lot around their lives and what they like and don't. So that could happen. But I do agree that it's different than what we've experienced. Because I went from New Zealand to Ecuador to Germany to France, and that was that was my trip, like living in different countries, and maybe that's more than traveling.
Yeah, exactly. So that's but the seed, that's true. It does plant the seed maybe, and you see different things. But it is so hard these days. Like, we did that when we were like young.
Yeah.
So if you're like 20 something, 19, like teenager, like 20 something, I think it is sort of easier to. It's not easier, but like you go and then you do it.
Yeah.
First, it's like the older you get, the harder it gets to take such a decision.
Yeah.
I think it's like you get more and more attached to, whatever. I don't know if that's true. Is it?
It might be true for us, but not for everybody. Like for example, I have a house that I bought. I have a wife and I have a kid.
Did you buy the wife and the kids?
Yes. Amazon. Good deal. But it makes it more difficult for me to say, hey guys, let's just go on a 1 year.
Okay, but that's because there's someone else in your life.
Yeah.
Which I think is also, that's a good point. Okay. Honestly.
And you also have. So.
I also have, yeah. But I think, so back then, if before moving to Japan, if I was in a relationship, probably, I'm not sure if I would have taken this decision.
I would have dumped them. You're only 18, 19.
No, probably yes. But the thing is that you don't know how you act back then.
Maybe you really
Maybe you think you're really in love.
Romantic.
And then and that person's like, no, don't leave me alone. And then you may decide not to go. Or maybe yes. it really depends.
That's true.
But that's also like being by yourself helps a lot.
Yeah.
If you're with someone, then that you already have some not a drag.
Oh, what a drag. Here it's true. I think as I dated
an anchor.
Yeah, I dated the same high school girl for a while, a few years. I don't know, 5 years or something like that. And it wasn't until we broke up that this idea of seeing the world sort of materialize itself for real, because I was like, I don't have, I don't have it. I think it may be weird or harder if while we were dating, I would have been like, look, girl, I got to go.
Especially maybe it doesn't cross your mind because you are busy with something else.
Yeah, you have that thing there. Or if you're watching this, you were not a thing.
Yeah.
You were more than a thing. But you do have some feeling that space there, that
you have something in your mind that keeps you busy, and then it make sure you don't, I don't know, you get bored. That's not the answer, right?
No, but I could tell that
I have an anchor. I think
you have an anchor.
An
anchor might not be the best anchor. It could be kind of a shitty anchor.
Yeah,
you just happen to have.
But sometimes we humans crave for an.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's like
a reason to stay.
A reason to stay. Yeah, okay, you know what? This is
so that are you saying that right now the only reason we don't travel the world is because of our wives?
No,
because we gotta get rid of. If you're watching,
they don't watch this, so it's fine.
They don't.
No, and that's not the reason. I think like it's more about like age. It's like somehow it's like you get a stable job, you get like a family, and like everything is sort of like okay, it comes together, and like the resistance you get like to change that is way bigger. So you're like, okay, why I will leave all of this now to go into this adventure? But that being said, things like in our case, because we had that experience before,
Yeah.
we don't need that experience anymore. We think that okay, we have been there, done that, and then you're like, okay, now maybe I'm going to what we are craving, not craving, but like we like this anchor thing because you have been already through all that adventure. But then if it was the opposite, you will never had that adventure, maybe by this time, then you start thinking, oh shit, I have to move away of this place. You have been living your whole life here. Maybe you are like, I need a change. I need to live.
It could be it. What do you think about this? Could it be satisfaction? Like, if you have a life that you're satisfied with, maybe a big 1-year trip somewhere just seems less appealing. I have what I want here. I have a nice partner. I have a nice house. I have everything I need, so I don't need to just put all of this away. I like my life. Versus maybe when you're young, you still don't know yourself very well. You don't maybe have someone you have a really strong connection with. You don't have a base that you're satisfied with. So the idea of some unknown thing, even if you don't know what it is, seems better than staying in a situation that you don't hate, but you're like,
there's nothing, you don't know what you want. Maybe when you are like younger, you don't know what you want. Or we didn't know, not everyone, maybe we didn't know what we wanted.
Yeah.
And then today, you have a better idea of what you want.
And you're satisfied also.
Yeah, you're happy with it. Yeah. You're like, I'm happy with this. Why? And then the same goes to, okay, if you are like 20, and then you're like, maybe if you're happy with what you have. A lot of people are like satisfied with what they have. That doesn't mean happy.
Yeah.
Being satisfied is not the same as being happy with. You're like, it's kind of conformist. Kind of like, I'm fine with this.
I don't know.
It's like,
I guess it depends on the definition. When I think about being satisfied,
yeah.
I think happiness, right? I think satisfaction actually is greater than happiness. And it's not like,
no, I don't.
Yeah, because I think it's a different word, but I cannot think of it right now. That it doesn't mean that complacent is different than satisfied. Like complacent is like, okay, I'm not completely satisfied with my life, but I have enough, and it's okay, and I'm too lazy to do more about it. I'm too lazy to change it. It's enough for me. It meets the bare requirements. I feel like that's complacent. That's not satisfied. True satisfaction is like, I'm really happy with my life. I really have all the things that I need, and I think we mean the same feelings, but we're adding different levels to the word. Like to me, satisfied is like I feel really satisfied with my life. When for you, I think you're saying, satisfaction, like, why are you so complacent in a life?
In a way, yeah. For me, being satisfied is like, okay, I'm satisfied. I'm okay with this.
Yeah.
Being happy is more like a different feeling. But again, it is semantics because we mean the same.
I think so.
The same feeling, and maybe that's true. It's like it depends on your stage of life or how you're feeling. Like if you're going to take the plunge and then go for an adventure or not.
Yeah.
In a way, like I feel like for me at least, inside I always had that itch for adventure. I always wanted some sort of adventure.
Me too. Yeah.
And I think that's why ultimately I went to Japan, and then after that I did other stuff. Things in a way I had that in me. So I wanted some sort of adventure. And I still want adventure. But I wonder if it's because I already had many adventures, that craving for adventure is like, okay, it's still there.
Yes.
But oh, I have also all the other things that I like and I want to do. So it's like, I don't go all crazy and leave everything.
I don't know the answer. I'm split between I have everything I need and I'm happy / satisfied.
Yeah.
And and I know what doing those adventures feels like, so I don't need them anymore as much.
Not today, but if you will, of course, if you will talk with the younger self, you will still say like, yeah, go do all of this.
And what I wonder is it an age thing or is it a situation? No, like current situation. Like let's say our wives find them really football players and they leave us, and you find yourself all alone here, without like a lot of like anything that you're attached to. Like, would you be like, fuck it, I'm gonna go on my next big adventure and I'm gonna travel somewhere and discover? And then that changes, and it's not really an age thing, it's just situational.
It's a situation.
That's what I wonder. I don't know,
because that will put you in a situation that probably you want a change in your life.
Yeah.
Right? It's like something happens that you're like, oh fuck. So maybe that's like when you need a change in your life.
Yeah.
Somehow. So it's like you need to, not to forget, but like let's say that okay, your wife leaves you. She's like, fuck you are talking shit about me in this podcast. So you know what? Bye.
Yeah.
And then like suddenly you're all alone. And then what do? And then you're like, you will try to like find some satisfaction in other things. And then like traveling is something that you like. So maybe you're like, okay, maybe I need to go for my next new adventure.
Yeah.
Just to get rid of this feeling that I was dampened.
Yeah.
In a way. So maybe
that's also
true
where it comes from. Yeah.
But then that means, okay, let's say that you have traveled, blah, and then like suddenly, okay, enough adventures. Today you don't have any more adventures. It's like you have trips, you have travels.
You're having different adventures now.
Different adventures.
Because I feel like, for example, that relationship, it's his own adventure, right? Like this person now takes you through, valleys and mountains and rivers that you probably were not crossing before. Now you're with them and you're experiencing new things with them. You're going to places with them. And that is all part of a new adventure for you, that it might be replacing that, the need that you had to go and travel on your own. Not completely, but it does take a big part of your attention, of your time that you want to.
Very romantic to say that I can say you're a Latin lover. Telling your wife, I do take me through valleys and mountains and rivers.
Yeah, I mean, I talked shit about her just a little while ago, so now
how to make it? No, but it's true. Like, true. A relationship is it's its own adventure in a way. That's true. Or like whatever, raising a kid, or like having your own company, or making a podcast. It can be different adventures. That's true. So it's the different kind of adventures.
Yeah.
So it's more like it's not travel adventures so much. But when we focus on traveling, I was wondering, is like, okay, is it also that we are spoiled today? And like, before, okay, New Zealand, amazing, and this place, Japan, amazing. But then, like, you have seen the world.
Yeah.
You have traveled, of course, there's many places you don't know, but it's like, in a way, then you feel like sometimes you're like, spoiled in a way. I've seen like a lot of places, so now I'm not sure I want to go anymore here or there.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And it happens when you're traveling as well. I took a 3-month trip not that long ago with my wife and kid, and the first month we were seeing waterfalls and mountains, and it was like so beautiful. But then by the 10th, the waterfall, you're just like,
it's a waterfall.
It's just another waterfall. I've seen 10 of them, and it's sort of, it does lose its magic because you do become spoiled by it.
Yeah.
I do find that with age, that spoiling iteration becomes quicker. Because I remember in New Zealand, I never get tired of waterfalls.
Yeah.
For a whole year, every time I saw a new waterfall, it was like, I was like, my mind was blown.
But again, is it an age thing or if it's like an experience? So you have seen so many waterfalls already in your life
Yeah.
that you are like, no, yeah, okay. I've seen like a lot of European towns, old towns. So then now they all look the same,
They do.
right? And it's like, so that's not true. They are different, but like somehow, just for like the first year you're traveling around Europe, and you see all these towns. Oh my God, it's so cute! And you want to take millions of pictures of them. But somehow, after seeing them, I think that's kind of a shame that one loses that.
It's true.
Yeah, that, how do you call it, ability to get blown away by these things.
Yeah, and I think that's a phenomenon in life. It's like when you eat something really nice as well. It's like first bite is amazing, the second one, the third. But if you have like 20 bites of it, it loses its.
Could be.
I think it's a balance with everything in life, huh?
So you need so in a way, like if you travel too much, then you need to balance and you need to not travel for a while. So then you get that back.
Yep.
It's like a detox.
Yeah. Balance, I guess.
So it's a detox. So like, if you travel too much, then you need to stop traveling.
Yeah.
Because then that way you're going to start appreciating it more. I don't know. Could be. And also it's like, even if you do a detox of traveling, by the time, even if you're like 5 years without travel, and then suddenly you go and then you go again to Paris, and they're like, okay, it's Paris again. I've seen this 15 years ago.
I think it's a combination of being traveling too much. There's an overexposure of like new sites and ideas and stuff. It could definitely, blind you, and everything starts to look the same.
Yeah.
I think as humans, at least me, there is a balance between staying in one place or predictability and change. And if I have too much of change, then I become a little bit numb to it. If I have too much of staying in one place, I become very bored. I think it's about a balance, but it's also about how you look at it and the mindset that you are in. And I think you can consciously make an effort to look at a waterfall and really appreciate it and feel like, oh, it is beautiful for what it is. I'm not going to compare it to the 100 other ones that were better and that were more tall. It just takes a huge amount of effort in today's world, especially because, we have so much information. Like,
I think it's that exactly. It's like exposure to, even if it's not that you traveling yourself, it's exposure to all of these, whatever, posts or social media stuff that you see a lot of people traveling.
Yep.
So like suddenly, like, let's say you go to Iceland.
Yep.
And then like you go and if you look on whatever Instagram and like Iceland, and there's like all of these posts and videos of like super beautiful waterfalls, super beautiful landscapes, taken with drones, taken like from here, from that, retouched with Photoshop or not retouched, like everything. So much. I mean, everything looks perfect because it's an Instagram. So it's like it is selected, like the best shots are selected.
Or like 10,000 shots.
10,000 shots of the best views. So then by the time you get there yourself and you see it yourself, it's like your expectations are different. It's not like the first time you are going to see them. So you go there and think, oh, nice. So what now? Like, it is very easy to fall into that trap.
I think that's definitely something that's different today than it was 20 years ago.
Totally.
And maybe that also adds to this feeling of like, oh, it's another waterfall. Maybe it's because, you have all these travel blogs or the Instagram posts, like you said, and they sort of desensitize you to the beauty of it, or the expectations that you put are just way up here.
Yeah.
Then when you get there, it's never going to feel like that photos. It's never going to look like that because they, post-process it or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, in a way, like, it's not just spoiled from traveling, it's spoiled from exposure to all of these on your hand, on your device.
Yeah.
So that, I think that's sort of like is that killing the not killing the industry, but killing the magic of
Yeah.
traveling. I feel that that's happening somehow. Like people don't appreciate it anymore. People travel to places, they go without looking
Yeah.
or without paying attention. They are just there, pass by, take a picture, and leave. And there's no appreciation of whatever they have seen.
No, I think for a lot of people, it's a checklist.
Yeah.
And especially, in places like Barcelona, I think people go there. They have a list, like Familia Sagrada, this, that thing. They go, they take the photo, they do the checklist.
They don't get to appreciate, the Sagrada Familia. It's a good one. It's that church that is super beautiful, super like unique architecture. People go there, take a bunch of photos, videos. You go there, it's like full of people taking photos and videos, and very few people actually looking at it with their own, with their eyes and stuff like they're like looking through it through the camera.
Okay.
They maybe look at it, oh, it's beautiful, boom, boom, boom. They leave, and there's no one sits there or like stands there and stuff to watch it, to appreciate it.
Because I think you go to recreate the experience you saw on that post.
Yeah.
You don't go to really find out for yourself what it is. In a lot of cases,
In a lot of cases.
I think that's the key.
You go, so you see something on Instagram, you get inspired, then you go to whatever place you've seen, but what you are looking after is that experience, that post experience.
Exactly.
And not the place itself. It's like, I want to be like that person that I saw with a selfie here.
Instagrammers, like with families, do that a lot, right? You see the mom really happily with a smile with 2 kids and the dad, and they're all like, us and the Familia Sagrada or Sagrada Familia photos, and there's just this sense of happiness and joy, and it smells great and it looks great. But then you go with your 2 kids for real, there's a bunch of people, your kids are crying, you really are like, well, that did not meet the expectations I had. Yeah, in any way, it was way more crowded than it was. And so you're comparing it already to this perfect thing. So by default already, you're going to be disappointed when you get there.
Yeah, true.
I think that happens a lot.
And it's like, and that's true, that's the other thing. It's like, you go and it's full of people.
Oh, yeah.
And that is something. It's like these days that we are seeing it a lot. It's like, you go anywhere and it's full of people, like full of tourists. Like as you are a tourist, you go and then it's like 1,000 or 10,000 more like you going to do exactly the same thing.
I'm not a tourist. I don't consider myself. Somehow, I feel like we all think that like we're not tourists. You know what I mean? Like we always feel better than the people that are going there. Yeah, because we're talking about it like that too. Like, but yeah, when you mention it, it is true what you say. We're also doing in some ways the same shit that everybody's doing.
You are taking photos too. You are taking the videos. Like you're one more of them.
But somehow, I don't think anybody views themselves as an annoying tourist.
Everyone else is an annoying tourist, but not you. Like not yourself. Like
came there with culture and grace.
True. Like most of people really don't think of themselves as like, oh, I am the annoying tourist.
I am that really. And I don't like who would think of themselves like that. And maybe
no one. Yeah, no.
I feel like I'm not. I'm really not.
Like what does it make you different from like the annoying normal tourist?
That's a good question. I feel like when I travel, I don't just like do the checklist thing, the hotspots, and go to places that are already super crowded. I don't try to eat at the places where like, everybody else is eating and it's going to be like full of like 1,000 tourists. I try to go to like the more local places. I try to
stop that.
Okay.
Should I show you the picture where you went to eat at the tacos places where there was a huge queue because the lady was in the Netflix show.
Oh, yeah, that's true. But you know what? That is an experience that I think a lot of regular tourists don't have, because in order to get there, I had to like go to this town in the middle of Mexico that most people, like especially Americans, don't go to.
Okay.
Right? Like I went. There were a few Americans, but there were not a lot compared to like Cancun, for example. And then I had to like walk a really long time to this market, and it was a scary looking market by, again, American or Western standards. So with like rats going around, like a bunch of food stalls and crazy smells all over the place, people shouting at one another. It was definitely not like an easy place to access.
Okay.
And maybe that's it, right? Like, I think as an obnoxious tourist of high class, I think what maybe separates me is that I don't mind going through difficulties when I go travel somewhere. And again, it's not when I go on holiday. It's not when I go to like a weekend somewhere. But like, I feel like I give part of myself to the place that I go to. I try to understand the place. I try to understand the culture, and I put myself in a comfortable situations to try and get something more back than just the easy travel. I think you do that too. I think like, you went on a safari in Africa in a camper. Like a lot of people will do that because of the level of uncomfortableness that you're willing to go through to get something back from the people and the culture.
That's true.
And also respect. I think that I respect the people and places that I go to.
It's an interesting point. It's like, I did that a few times in Africa in different places. Like the last one was Tanzania. We go there, we rent our own truck with a camp, with a tent on top of it. And we go by ourselves, driving in like these crazy places. Interesting thing is like, for me, it was okay, I'm not the obnoxious tourist who goes there and then like asks for everyone to serve them. Like I go and then I go to a supermarket and I make my own food. I really go like, and I try to talk to people like I'm not one of them. I mean, I try not to be like, oh my God, like, yeah, give me this, because I really try to go, and I'm all dirty. I was like for like 2 weeks or 3 weeks, like super dirty all the time, because like, you have to change the tires, you have to do all of that. And I'm like, hey, yeah, I'm like that, and I see all the other tourists with their safari guides and like not guides, like the tours. And that's like all of these tours, they go with the air conditioning in their trucks, and there's a driver, there is a guide, and they are all clean, like wash clothes, like, so it's like, I'm like, I'm not like them.
Super comfortable.
Yeah, super. I'm not. I say I like what I'm doing, but now it turns out that some people from there think that I'm the bad guy.
Yeah.
Because I'm not paying for a tour, and then therefore I'm not giving them money or jobs.
Being a cheap tourist.
They look at me, not everyone, but a lot of people look at me as the cheap tourist who don't want to have a guide with them or a cook with them, and they don't want to have someone who make their tent every night, because they want to pay for it. I say, no, it's not that because I don't want someone to make my tent.
Yeah.
But that's my view, but their view is different.
That's really interesting.
It's
I didn't think about that, but it makes a lot of sense. But it's also, I don't know if it's that clear cut, right? Because maybe you were spending money in smaller places and venues than those other tourists, because there's these, usually in a place like that, there's like bigger companies that they control everything. They say, okay, you come through us, you do this whole safari tour, we take you through it, and they're the only ones making the money.
Yeah, they don't pay shit to the local guides.
Right. So maybe you had to then figure out your own food, figure out your own things to say, and you spend your money more evenly than the other person just hire the tour.
If you think about it, yes, probably. But then that's not the view of the common view, right?
That they have.
I feel like, and then like, of course, like, okay, because you're one of those people, then where some people go out of their way to make your life harder sometimes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What did they do?
Okay, so for example,
Retired?
no, but for one example is like, you ride to a park and then you have to buy the ticket and the ticket to enter to the park, and then like there is this place where like, okay, all the tourists go, and then the guide, who is a local person, go and then buy the ticket.
Okay.
And then it's like for everyone. And then that's very smooth. You just go back. But then when you go as a tourist with no guide, they ignore you. They will like, and they ask you, what is your guide? Say, no, I don't have. I came, and they look at you and say, okay, then you have to like wait. And then they maybe wait like an hour and something.
Oh,
until they decided that one guy was like, okay, now you can come here. And
whoa.
so it's like, it doesn't happen all the time, but it happened in a few times, right? It's like, okay, because you're the cheap bastard who don't want to pay a guy, then now you're going to pay the price.
That's interesting.
And it's like, okay, fine. Like, I knew that could happen. So it's not like I was like, okay, fine, I'm fine with this. I know this, right? It's not nice, but okay, fine. I don't try to change their mind.
That's a very interesting thing, though. Like, I mean, I think today we can say that there is a very dark side to travel.
There is the dark side of travel.
We're taking like too many flights. It's bad for the environment. Cities are overcrowded, like Barcelona.
Yeah,
and they just have there were like spray water. They have water guns that they were shooting at tourists. I think like
they hate tourists.
They hate tourists.
Like they are really, yeah.
But I think for the longest time, people thought like, oh, it is the rich, older people who are the good tourists. I think they're really the bad tourists. Sure, they go and they spend more money, but they all go to the same place. They spend money at the same companies, the big hotel chains and stuff. But I think it's people like you and backpackers and stuff like that. Sure, they may spend less money overall, but I think they distribute it better a little bit better.
Yeah,
I think. I don't know.
So it's like I think you are right from that point of view, but also you also have like you also have obnoxious backpackers.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, obnoxious everything.
It's like all kind of
get drunk and
they get drunk. It has happened, and then like people are like, oh, these tourists, these young people who come get drunk, trash the place, and they are cheap, so they don't even leave tips.
That's true. Yeah.
Right. So it's like, and I think like this exposure to more and more and more tourist places, like it's kind of like ruining it for not for everyone, but the experience in a way. People start hating tourists, where actually it should be a nice thing. You have someone from abroad coming to your place to see how it is there. With maybe they are interested in like learning about the life there.
Should be a good exchange.
It should be a good exchange, and then in the exchange you could learn something from them.
Yeah.
So they can learn something, you could learn something. There is an exchange. You may even make a friend. So ideally, that's what the ideal situation is. As a tourist, you go somewhere, there is an exchange, like a nice exchange. But of course, that's not what happens.
You think tourism, speaking on the dark sides of tourism, do you think it's become too accessible? And now, since not everybody, but more people can afford it, even like people who are not going to a place, this might be messed up to say, but let's say less cultured people are traveling, right? Like like just people who are just gonna go to a place, they're gonna party. They don't give a shit about meeting new people, or they don't give a shit about like your culture or the things that you have to offer. You know, they see some posts on Instagram and it looks cool, and they go a group and they just want to get drunk and be really
do that and get pictures for Instagram
and other socials. And you have a lot, like a huge influx of tourism is cool tourists, and not like tourism is this adventure that you change yourself, you meet that, and you just have a lot of people going and just going for the sake of going and perceive fascism, and they can afford it more now, and more people can afford it. Everything is just crowded and crazy.
Could be. I think it's like in a way that it became more accessible, which means that you and me can also travel, right? Which is like, it's like in a way, okay, good, because it got more accessible, so we can travel now.
But we're culture.
But like, yeah, I try not to be an asshole. But then it's like everyone is like, if you can travel, everyone else can travel, and then that. But it is.
How can we change that so that only we can travel?
That's like, so how can we solve the problem of like, okay, tourism is breaking, like
it's not fun anymore to go to Barcelona, for example.
It's not fun anymore, no. And even like, okay, I was a few years ago. I was in the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
It says, oh, it's a nice hike. I'm going to go. It's full of people doing the same hike.
Even nature now, it's
even nature. You go down and there is a queue for like, and then there's in the queue, and you're in the Grand Canyon or whatever canyon or wherever you are, and then like, okay, first it's full of people. Then there is a queue. Then it's like, okay, it's not that I had expectations. I was like, I wanted to see a nice place, but so being in a sort of not remote, but in nature. You're like, okay, I'm going to be here. You picture yourself walking in the wilderness, but no,
and then
it's like full of people. Okay, it's not just full of people. It's like full of people. Everyone is like stopping to taking pictures, so it's very hard to like pass by. I do take pictures too, so I'm also guilty of that. I'm not saying this picture. I take pictures, but it's like I try not to be in the way of other people, but it's very hard. Eventually, you get into the way of someone.
Yeah.
And then it's like everyone stops, and there's like all of this, and then there's also groups of people who are like, oh, I think it's a good idea to just put some music. And then go with the portable speakers, not even with your headphones.
And there's a hike in nature, and you got music.
And you have some music that I don't feel like listening to music now.
It ruins the whole.
And it ruins the whole experience. And I like, I try to like put myself in the Zen mode where like, okay, this is like, it's fine. Like they are doing their thing. This is how they enjoy it. And I'm going to enjoy it in my way. So I try, but it is hard.
It is very hard. It's so extremely hard. I think that's one of my least favorite things now about traveling. I had the exact same experience with Jenna and Bali. Again, waterfalls. I cannot tell you the amount of waterfalls that had people lined up just to take photos in front of them so that they could be in the middle of the waterfall and nobody behind. And it was it. And there was even like a Instagram, the photo tour where people would drive you to different waterfalls so you got photos. So there's going to this beautiful place, amazing nature around, but then you see this queue of people taking photos and it just completely
somehow it's ruined it. But I don't know what to do about it first.
What can we do? Like, what could be a nice, like, can we get rid of it? Like, can we just ban people from traveling? If you're
just banning people. So you have, okay, so you could put like some of like exam you have to pass.
Yes.
Like some sort of like, but I don't think that would work because it's like, it's not about being cultured. Like I know a lot of very cultured people with PhDs, whatever, who are assholes. So it's like, or who feel entitled to whatever, like, just look at our last episode about the billionaires, for example. So it's like, there is a lot of people like.
Do you think we should limit the amount of traveling a person can do in the world?
Okay, but then that will sort of like also ruin the experience. Okay, now imagine that there is a limit in the amount of people that can, let's say, leave the Netherlands, use Schiphol to go somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And then that means that probably you have to like go through a lot of paperwork or like some shitty app that probably is not going to work because, of course, apps never work. And then just try to take an appointment, or like not an appointment, like a slot.
What if it's like you get credits? Like that, Andy, you're gonna get 10 travel credits this year, and then it would be like, okay, for 10 travel credits, you can go like as far in the world as possible.
Okay.
And go all the way to Antarctica.
So it's like the credits will be like, depends where you go, it's like the amount of credits. So it's like if you go to Antarctica, it's like 10 credits, but if you go to Barcelona, it's like 2 credits.
Maybe it will be depending on how busy that place is. So like Barcelona will cost a lot because it's such a busy place. But since nobody's going to Antarctica, that will be only like 1 credit. And so
then you ruin Antarctica.
Go to Antarctica and party. You see a bunch of like stag parties. Just
in Antarctica. I can see how it would ruin, like, yeah, the penguins will get all there. Get out of here. So it's, but the credit system, it is interesting in theory. I can see probably how it will be game, like people with money will be able to buy more credits.
Yeah, like millionaires and billionaires, multi-millionaires
will be able to, like,
they will always game the system.
Yeah. So no, but even like they will not millionaires, but the people with a lot of money, then it's like, so they will game the system for one. Then but let's say, how will that work? How will I get new credits? Is it just like every year you get 10 credits, for example?
Something like that. Like,
but then that means that the whole of the Netherlands, everyone gets 10 credits and then everyone can travel, so it will be the same. Because everyone can go to Barcelona.
Yeah, but that will cost more, right? So then you'd be like, okay, Barcelona is a very like over-traveled place, right? So you know, the problem is with that is the whole world will have to work together.
Yeah, which will never happen. Of course.
So then they will be like, oh yeah, you know, maybe Spain's like, I don't give a shit about the credit system. So
well, but for example, like Catalonia, who is, you know, like they are now, I mean, they hate tourists, right? So maybe they will buy into, maybe like only certain places will buy into it. Okay, we want to reduce the amount of tourism here, so we are going to introduce this credit system that this global company gives to people.
Startup idea right there.
Yeah.
Global.
So they are a global company, a global organization who allocates credit to people, and then only places like, let's say, Catalonia is like, okay, any tourist can enter if they have this credit thing. Otherwise, it's like when it was like COVID time, and then you had a QR code.
Yeah.
You had to have the vaccine in order to enter to a country. Remember those well, something like that. That worked out, right? Like if you didn't have it, you could not enter in a place.
Yeah.
But you know, that wouldn't, I think, I'm not sure if that would solve, because, okay, how many tourists is too many tourists? Like, how many credits do you give us, Catalonia?
Yeah.
So people can come in.
And also, I think a place at least like Barcelona depends a lot on tourism. So if all of a sudden you cut it in half, like a lot of businesses will
fall and then you will have a problem. So exactly.
Can you really limit it?
Look at Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Amsterdam is full of tourists, and a lot of people hate on tourism in Amsterdam. But Amsterdam lives of tourism.
Really?
So it's like, okay, yeah, hate it as much as you want.
It's a big part of the.
It's a big part of a big part of the economy of the city. Yeah. So then it's like, then it's like people are going to always hate it. And if you introduce this kind of system, they are going to hate the system because there's not that much money coming in.
Yeah, that's true. It's a hard one. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure people have thought about this.
How to solve the overcrowd.
I think but something has to be done, though, because I think it just gets worse.
I think what this opens up is like a space for less traveled places to get famous and then get fucked up too. But like, at least it gives opportunity to other places. Maybe you don't go to Barcelona because it sucks, and then maybe you discover this little town in, I don't know, Poland.
Yeah.
who also has whatever nice thing, and then like you go there, and then like you like it, and then there's like more and more people coming.
I forgot what it is, but there's this one town. I don't know if it's in Germany or Denmark or something, and there's like a scene from a movie or something that's shot in there. It's like really beautiful, but only like I think only like 100 people or something lived there.
Yeah.
But it got so famous that
like 40.
because I can't think of the name, but like now a bunch of like buses arrived, and the people in the town are super angry about it. So much so that they started to put like billboards and signs where the view is. So now they no longer have the nice view that people that live there, but at least the people coming in the bus also don't see it. So it's a way to like push them. Like I have to look it up, but
That's like, yeah,
some towns are going through this.
they're pushing.
Like, fuck, we don't want tourists. I get like even people in Amsterdam, right? Imagine if you lived there and if you've lived there for like 50 years.
Yeah.
And now every time you go outside, it's like all these fucking drunk tourists.
Yeah, it must be annoying. It is totally annoying. So it's like, I understand the hate,
Yeah.
but it's like, isn't the nicest way to fight? I don't know what. I don't have,
Oh, either, yeah.
for the first time in my life, I don't have a solution for this.
The next episode, maybe we're gonna come up with a solution to this problem.
Yeah, I don't know. Or like just like a solution as an individual, it would be like, okay, like just start going to places where not many people go.
That's what
For example, the outback in Australia.
that's what I try to do there.
Yeah.
But
it is, it means that it's harder to access. It involves more of an issue to go.
but I think it's worth it in the end. The return that you get is.
I think so. I've been to places where when you are like by yourself there, you are like, okay, this is it's nice.
Yeah.
I really miss going to those places. It's very hard to.
I wonder how hard it is. Like for example, you take like Amsterdam. Amsterdam is beautiful, but there's so many cities in the Netherlands that look just like Amsterdam, like the center. It doesn't have the big like party nightlife and stuff like that. But
if you go for a party nightlife, that is fine. You go to Amsterdam.
But if you're looking for other stuff, you can come to the Netherlands and skip Amsterdam and have an amazing time.
I was talking with someone the other day. One possible solution is like if you want places where there's not too many people, then you need to pick ideas or destinations where like chances that you come back alive are low.
I know. I don't know.
Yeah, like if you go to the outbacks in Australia, it's kind of like, I don't know, maybe you go and it's full of tourists, probably, but it is like, it's rough.
Yeah.
You can die there. Okay. If you decide to go to Mongolia and then like, you know what? I'm going to cross the desert on a horse.
Or Afghanistan.
Well, yes, but
I mean, there would be very little tourists.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, if you really want to get away of places, you can choose these kind of things. Because then people don't go because there's no comfort.
Do you think it's easier than that? Like, all you have to do is just maybe not look online for your travel inspiration, and you're already far ahead of the curve in terms of avoiding the crowd?
You have a good point. Like, maybe it's like when you look on internet, everyone goes to the same places because that's what Google gives you at first.
So that's why we're all going there. But I'm just thinking of the Netherlands as such a little place, but the tourists are just going to one place mostly.
Yeah, but you go anywhere in the Netherlands, it's full of people on a Saturday anyway.
That's just because it's small.
But I mean, internal tourists. Oh, internal tourists.
Yes, tourists. Yeah, internal tourists. But I've also noticed that, for example, when I go back home to Miami, right? Like, tourists are in one place, but much of the South Beach.
Yeah.
But there's a bunch of other places around that aren't crowded. All people just don't go there because it's not on the
Instagram
and the social.
Yeah. So maybe it's that. But how do you find those places then? If you don't know anything about Miami, how I will know where to go? Because that's the other. When I go to a new place, I have no idea. I need to. It's not that you need to look for information, but these days, and this is the other thing, if you don't plan ahead, these days, it is very hard to go and improvise anything. I tried a few times to go to the airport, not a few times, one time, and I was like, okay, with a friend, let's buy a ticket to go now to whatever place.
Yeah.
They were like, sorry, sir, we cannot. It's like the last minute tickets, it was like for the next day.
Yeah.
So that's the tickets. Hotels, these days, you go anywhere, you arrive on the spot,
It's really hard.
and it is very hard to get, unless it is very crappy hotel full of bedbugs. But like, and I don't want that. But like any place you arrive, and then like, hey, do you have a room for? So they are not used to that.
No.
There's not in the reservations. Most of people don't do it anymore. So the systems now are not prepared for that.
That's a good point.
So then it is very hard to say, okay, let's say I have no idea about Miami, and then I decide to go to Miami. Let's say I buy an airplane ticket, I get it, and I arrive next week. And I say, okay, you know what? I don't know where to go. I need to look somewhere, because otherwise I arrive there, I don't have my hotel. I don't know where to sleep.
It's really hard to just go be like, oh, recommend me a hotel. Yeah, and then just go there and it'll be available. Yeah.
And a few times also what happens with this, and because I tried to do this kind of stuff a few times, like, okay, I'll go there, and then like, I'm not going to look on any recommendation. I'm going to just walk around the city and then like find somewhere to eat, whatever. I don't want to check Google reviews. I don't want to check.
Yeah.
Many times I end up in places that are very crappy. Which is fine, but the amount of times that I end up in a very good place, like by chance, it's null. Like zero. I'm not zero. I'm like that.
It happens.
I'm not that, but not that out.
And that is true. I'm guilty of it too. I'm always like, I feel like you have to plan ahead now because otherwise it's almost impossible.
So the system push you into it.
But I think that's one of the cool things about traveling for a long time or going on that long adventure is that you learn where to go in a place. Like we said, I'm going to go to New Zealand for a year. Eventually you find out like, oh, there's these spots in New Zealand. Yeah. Where people usually don't venture to as much. And I know them. And you need time for that. If you're going to go on 2 weeks holiday, you probably have to plan.
You need to plan ahead. And then when you plan, you need a source of information. And then there's the same source of information that everyone else uses.
Yeah.
And then you're adapting the same basis.
All right. So I guess we're not going to solve that problem today, but I guess we can move on to the last topic.
What's the last topic?
So I think there's a huge difference between traveling and being an expat.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I think for a lot of people that may be listening or watching it, they may not know the expat side of things. And a lot of people may know that and can relate to it. But life as an expat is really weird when you try to ground yourself in a country and you say, okay, I'm going to be here a long term. I think you have probably more experience with this because your first trip, automatically you were an expat. Because to be honest, when I was in New Zealand,
yeah,
I never felt like an expat because I knew I was going to leave at the end of the year.
You knew that you were traveling.
I knew that. And every other country that I lived in Ecuador, France, and Germany, I always knew I'm going to leave here in a year and a half or two. And the Netherlands was the only country where I was like, I need to start a life here.
Yeah.
And that completely changed my whole outlook on being in a new place. I completely it made me look, it made me miss home for the first time.
Okay.
When I felt like I have to put roots here, all of a sudden I'm like, I miss Miami so much. I miss my family so much. I miss the things that I'm used to. I miss the feeling of belonging, of understanding the language, of speaking Spanish. Like I started to miss all these things tremendously when I knew that I was staying for an indefinite amount of time.
So
do you relate to that or not?
The knowledge, so knowing that suddenly you are there for a long term, suddenly you don't have that return ticket.
Suddenly you don't, yeah.
That is like
good way to put it, yeah.
Yeah, that makes you realize that there's a lot of things that you may miss or actually
even makes not only miss for sure, but also for me, I started to even at first hate some things about the place I was with, place I was in. I'm sorry, and I think that's because of that realization. Like, if this is gonna be forever, this weather sucks. Whereas before that, I never would have complained about the weather. I'd be like, oh, it's temporary for me.
That's an interesting thing because do I relate to it? No,
Okay.
but I understand the feeling. I'm good. So I've seen this in different places. So in Japan, I remember like, okay, being an expat also is like being an expat. There's a lot of definitions of expat.
Yeah.
But let's take the broad definition of like an expat is someone living in a country that is not their own. So you go there, so immigrate into that country, and then you have a good job that you choose to pick, and then like it's probably usually it's like how you call it, blue collar jobs or whatever kind of jobs, but like so it's a good job that you decide, and then you are there, and then so that will be an expat. Right? It's not a refugee. It's not.
Yeah, I guess you can make a distinction between immigration and expats, or like immigration maybe comes out of like necessity. Like I had to flee my home to,
in a way, yeah.
And as expat is like sort of a luxury. Like
I choose to live here. So it's my exactly. So I'm choosing to live in this place.
None of my relatives in Cuba have been like, you know, I'm gonna go to Miami today. So I feel like I need a change.
So you feel like big. Exactly. That's all that expat. It's like an expat. I'm an expat here.
Well, yeah, I left because shit was going down.
Yeah, so it's different. Exactly. So there is a big difference.
I feel like I've experienced both sides of the expat, right? Like I left Cuba to go to Miami, and that was out of necessity.
Yeah.
But now, I'm a very spoiled expat. I complain, but I can go anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like that. That's just it. Yeah. I think expat is like, we can take the definition of like, okay, it's your choice to go there and be there, and you like it. So that's right. It's not the out of necessity. It's you. So it's like in Japan, the funny thing was like the expat things. I was a foreigner. I was a foreigner student, which it is at least there. It's not the same as an expat.
Okay.
Because an expat usually is like someone working usually for a multinational.
Yeah.
Going there, I choose to go there. Maybe in the future I leave, but whatever. So they have a very specific bubble.
Okay.
I don't need to integrate. I don't integrate too much. I'm just like in my bubble.
Yeah.
It's an expat bubble, and there's also, of course, like a lot of them like the culture there, so they try to integrate, but as an expat. So your identity is being an expat.
Yeah.
Whereas like when you're a student, maybe you're trying, at least, you're like 20 something, you're trying to like integrate into the society, as in like, I don't want to be Japanese, but I kind of like have my role as a foreigner student here. And then after a student, then you start working after graduating. And then that becomes weird because you are a sort of an expat too, because you choose to stay there.
Yeah.
But most of the people that I knew, they were students too, and they were like, you're young, so you're like, I actually like here, I want to live here. I wasn't sent when I was like 30 something here by my company.
No, so
I wonder if like also the expat thing, it comes with an age thing.
I think it's that
could be.
I think so. I think it's definitely a life situation.
Professional. So that's the thing. You already have your profession. And then your job, a profession, and then you choose to move to this country and keep working as that. So maybe
I think it's more subtle than that. I think as a student, you probably were with a bunch of people your age.
Yeah.
You were forced to meet with them in a group every day.
Yes.
So automatically you belonged somewhere.
Yeah.
Every day you were hanging out with these people. You probably had a place that was very clear where you fitted in. Whereas you're maybe older, you're going there to work. It's a little less. It's a little bit different, right?
I mean, that's why I was thinking. Like in a lot of places, yes. Again, in Japan, it's particular because then expats they have their own bubble of expats, and they all hang out in the same places.
Okay.
It is very particular. It's like it's a bubble. Then you go and then you know the bars where the expats hang out, the days where the expats hang out.
It's pretty interesting.
And it's like they know each other. So this is actually very good places to do networking if you are into business.
Okay.
So it has, and then usually there's always someone who knows someone who knows. So it's like it's a very small world.
Okay.
I'm talking about Tokyo.
Yeah, in Tokyo.
Right? So, but then, yeah, I think, so back then, no, I wasn't feeling like an expat or anything.
Did you always think like, oh, I'm going to leave Tokyo or Japan, or did you think, oh, I may live here forever?
I never talked too much about it. I didn't plan ahead that much.
And that could also be another thing. It's the realization of like, oh, I'm settling down.
Exactly. So
I didn't think about that. So
I was there, I was established, and I was like, okay, like this is where I live. I mean, I felt like I belonged there, in my own way. And then I didn't think about like I will leave. I also didn't think I'm going to be here until like I die. It's like, I don't know what's going to happen. I like it here, so I'm not looking for an opportunity to leave the country.
That's interesting.
I'm happy here, so fine, I'm going to be here.
Good.
Yeah.
I felt a lot more like I belonged in like New Zealand and all these other places.
Yeah.
A lot more. It took me way less time to sort of feel at home in those places than it did here in the Netherlands. And I wonder if it's because in those places, like you said, I didn't have a plan. I was like, I'm here, maybe I'll stay 1 year, 2, 3, maybe 20, I don't know. But there was no certainty of what would happen. Whereas here in the Netherlands, there is. Maybe that could be the factor. So I'm curious to hear, like, if that was different for you when you came to the Netherlands. Or do you still feel like, nah, man, I could just leave tomorrow or whatever?
No, today I'm more established.
Yeah.
I feel more established in a way. And I feel like I'm an expert to that.
Do you feel like you belong all the time here? Like as you did in Japan?
In a different way. Yeah, I feel like I belong, but I belong and I have this thing that like, I think if you're an expat, then you belong as an expat. And this is like a very controversial view because lots of people are like, oh no, you are living in a place, how to integrate to the society. And like, no, I'm integrated as an expat.
Okay.
I think expats, they have their place in societies in Japan. And I think this is, okay, now I'm connecting this. I think this is something that I saw in Japan. I learned that the expats had their own place in society.
So that's where
that's where I took it exactly. So for my view, it's like in Japan, they had their place. They were expats. So here I'm also an expat.
Yes.
And I feel that way.
Okay.
That doesn't mean that, being an expat doesn't give you a how do you call it, carte blanche?
Yeah.
to do like anything and like to disrespect the company.
I'm an expat.
Exactly. It doesn't give you that right. But it gives you an identity. Your identity is being and I think I've seen some people trying to really integrate and fit into a culture where they are not from there.
Yeah.
And not all, it doesn't work. It doesn't work sometimes. I mean, sometimes it works, but sometimes people really struggle with that, with their identity. They try to change their identity into being whatever. Let's say if you are in the Netherlands and you're trying to be Dutch. When you are in Japan, you're trying to be Japanese, right? And it's like, no, it doesn't work that way. Just be yourself. And of course, respect the culture of the place.
Mm-hmm.
That's super important. And if, like in a place, you're living in a place where the culture is very different to yours, yeah, okay, take that into account. Don't try to force, if people like to plan ahead, don't show up in their house suddenly with a plan.
You could spice it up.
You could, but like,
yeah.
it depends on food, right? So it's like, oh, if people don't like, I don't know, like talking in the train, doesn't go around and I talk to everyone in the train, like being annoying.
Music blasting.
Exactly, right? Like this kind of stuff. Like you have to have that sense. But I think as an expat, I feel like I have my place as an expat here. And I'm happy with that.
Interesting.
So, and that gives me a sense of belonging.
Okay.
And it's, yeah, I get down here.
That's an interesting outlook. I don't look at it like that. Unfortunately. I have a very different view on it. Like, I think more and more maybe I'm starting to think like you, but for me, something happened when I moved here. I don't know what it was, where I did begin to have my first ever identity crisis of who am I, what am I doing? Because I felt like I had these parts of me that nobody understood. Like nobody understood my Cuban American side, like what it meant to be a Cuban person that moved to Cuba, that lived in Miami, that grew up in Miami. Like, and all of a sudden I realized that nobody will ever understand that ever in the place I live. And that just totally fucking blew my mind. And I had a kind of a mini crisis where I was like, maybe I need to get out of this place and go back there or go somewhere where I'm more understood.
Yeah.
And it's true, like I've never met another Cuban here. I've never met another person from Miami. And there are things that I just cannot share, and I feel like I'm losing them. I also feel like I lose the people that are back home that I'm close to, like my mom and my sister and my nieces. Like as time passes and then I go back and see them, I feel like, oh, I've lost like a year where we didn't see each other, and I've lost moments and connections that I could have had with you. And those things became just so much more real when I knew that I was not going to go back home.
Yeah.
It's crazy though, because I spent like 7 years traveling, not going back home, and that never was a
Cross your mind, yeah.
until I realized like, oh, but now it's not an option anymore. Like it is an option, but now like I've decided to live here.
Yeah. Interesting. So it's like it click.
It really clicked.
That made that click in your mind. It's like, oh.
And it first, I think I've corrected that sort of mentality now. But for the first years of living in the Netherlands, I thought, oh, the people here suck. I hate this culture. They're so cold. The problem was with me, right? I was trying to find that, somebody getting this side of me that, maybe they wouldn't get here, or I would try it. Like there's this saying that it's like, if you go to somebody like, and you want to be like liked, or you want to be included in a culture, you don't go in there going like, this is me. Right? Like people are not gonna react well to that. You go in there with the curiosity of, who are you? I want to learn more. And that's what I did the first 7 years of traveling. But then I came here, had this sort of identity crisis. And then everywhere I went, I was like, this is me. Do you accept me? Hello. When people were like, I have no idea what this Miami Cuban thing is, I feel rejected. I didn't want to learn about them. And it felt weird.
Interesting.
And that I struggle with that.
It's, like, I've seen that in every single country I live. Mm-hmm. I've seen like, because of course I always hang out with people from the place, but also with expats.
Yeah.
It is a very common thing to hate on the people of the country or the country you are living.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter which country. It's like when I was living in Japan, like a lot of people were like, oh, Japanese people are like this damn Japanese. And then you move to Germany, like people like expats in Germany, oh, these Germans, blah, blah, blah. And then France, and then like, oh, these French people. And then in the Netherlands, and then like, yeah, oh, the weather sucks, the food sucks. There's always
that hate.
Always that hate of like trying to find something that you don't like, or like, and then like somehow like complaining about it.
Yeah.
Which is like, not everyone really mean it. Someone's like, I'm just complaining about the weather just because I want to complain, or about the food, or like, but it's like, and some people are like, oh, if you don't like it, just leave it. So now don't take it that serious.
Sometimes it's nice to complain.
It's just out of, and also, so you want to complain, you want to get out of your system, but also maybe kind of like it enforces the idea of like, oh, whatever, the weather or the food, whatever, like you hate of that place sucks here. And still you choose to live in that place.
Mm-hmm.
So that tells, you can look at it in a different way. Hey, I hate this thing, but I still live to choose. I still choose to live here. That means a lot. Like, it means part of me really like it here. That's why I'm staying.
Despite all the shitty.
Despite all of the shit, you are staying there. So
Yeah,
I think that's a good thing. So this thing that you're saying, I like, some point I was hating, whatever, like, I didn't like it. I've seen that a lot. So it's not uncommon. Now they are saying about this identity crisis. I wonder if that's also related to an identity crisis of an expat. You are there and you're like, yeah, you are on yourself.
I think that, yeah, to me, I'm convinced that hate, at least for me, comes from myself. It was just at that moment I really had some identity crisis, and it wasn't that the people were super annoying and cold and stuff like that. It was more me that I wanted something different from them, and they could not offer that because what I wanted was to go back home.
I think you didn't understand the culture itself. You didn't understand, or, you don't know the culture. You didn't agree with their ways. You wanted them to be like what you wanted. No,
that's not it at all. I think I understood the culture because it wasn't so different from what I was used to in Germany, and I dated already my wife for a while. She's Dutch. I visit her family. I knew the culture, and the culture is actually, it's nice. It's just nice in its own way. The problem was that with me only, it's like I wanted something different.
That's you.
It was really like sort of inward, and I was projecting it and I was taking it out of me. And I think that happens to a lot of people, right? There's like, they say like when you move to a new place, you have like the holiday period where you're like, this is the best
honeymoon period, yeah.
Then the rejection period, like this place completely fucking sucks. Why did I move here? And then you have the sort of, I forgot what it's called, I guess the sort of phase where you realize, okay, there's a balance. Not everything's good, not everything's bad. And I think that I went through that.
So it's like, interesting. So it was you.
Oh,
just in you.
Yeah, that's free. And I realize now, you know, people who I thought like, man, they're so annoyed, so stupid. It's just me wanting them to really be like my friends back home that I knew, I'm not going to see those people a lot anymore.
Yeah.
Why aren't you like that? Why aren't you more like warm? Why aren't you more like this? But of course, I cannot ask that for that. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with them. It was just me trying to recreate something that I had to come to terms with losing. Because I do think, as an expat, you do lose things, right? That you do leave a lot back in the place that for maybe not for everybody, but I feel like I had a lot to lose by leaving. I got a lot to win as well, but also a lot to lose.
Yeah, it's a choice that you are consciously making. You're taking something, but you're leaving something behind. So I was like, and that's something that is interesting because not a lot of people understand. Like, if they are not in that situation, they don't understand that being an expat is not all like everything is good. It's like, hey, I'm leaving a lot of options, a lot of things behind.
Yeah.
And I'm going through struggles that probably you have never been through.
Yeah.
Out of my own choice. I decided.
I did this. It's not, I did to myself, we were saying, like an immigrant.
No, 100%. It's your own choice. But still, you have to deal with all of those things.
Yeah.
So it's not all happy and process and whatever. It is, there is these real struggles that a lot of people who are not expats don't get it.
No, yeah.
And they say, yeah, you are making a sacrifice, let's say, not a sacrifice, but you are like leaving things out of your life because you choose to be here for different reasons, and you are contributing to that place, to that society in your own way.
Yeah.
So you are actually adding value to that society.
Hopefully.
Yes, like I think that's the deal. Like most of expats add it because they are working on something that they bring their expertise to that. So okay, that's and also a touch of culture and color to like a different.
I do. It does add some diversity and stuff.
Yeah, like all the salsa,
all the salsa that I dance.
All the salsa. Oh yeah, that's. I think that's a good point because it connects with what we were talking at the very beginning. When you travel, it's like it's a price to pay.
Yeah,
like you go into an adventure and there's a cost to it. The price to pay, and then like I think it connects beautifully with being an expat, and also there's always a price to pay for every experience. But it is worth it.
I just
Look more convinced. Yes.
no, but I think that's an absolute statement to make. Is it worth it? It depends. I don't think you can say that for everybody. For some people, it's not, and that's okay.
That's true. I mean, for me, it's worth it.
Yeah, same. I agree. Like for me, it's worth it because the person that I am today, I only became what I am because of the places that I've been, the people I've met, and I like myself much better than the person that never left their home.
That's true. But also, there is a good point to make that you will never know what you will have became if you never left.
That's true. I could have married like my or Angelina Jolie. I could have had like 10 kids.
Yeah, I mean,
Belly and a shotgun.
I don't know exactly, and then so you never know. You will never know who that person was. So it is hard, but in this reality, in this line of reality, this is who you are because of what you went through. And if you're happy with that, that's important thing.
That's true.
Like for me too. So I'm pretty happy with who I became through all that journey. So,
but it's also true. You never know. In the next Messi.
To be honest,
Argentina.
Yeah, to be honest, I think like this is the best version of myself in any timeline. But
I don't know.
You will never know.
That's a pretty bold statement.
Because
could be.
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay. I think it's good. We discussed like a lot of things. We started with traveling. It wasn't only travel, it was like adventures.
Philosophy and life.
Philosophy in life.
Belonging.
Not belonging. Like being an expat. It's not about like being abroad in a way. Like being like living outside,
leaving home. Leaving your little bird nest.
Yeah.
Flying.
I mean, yeah. Would you advise it to anyone who asks you, hey, should I do this?
Yeah.
Whatever their age.
I would. I think if you're in a place in life where you're not happy with your situation and you can afford it, because let's face it, I mean, you have to be in a privileged position to travel and leave your home. But if you can do it, if if you're a younger person, hate your job or just hate your situation, you want to expand your mind or learning things, I definitely advise it.
Yeah, me too.
If you're older too.
I would say like you don't need, I mean, yeah, in a privileged situation maybe, but not that much. You don't need a lot to do it. You can like get started with a backpack and not much money in your pocket and go away and then see what happens. It's like, it depends on your situation, on your health. There is a lot of factors.
Yeah.
Of course, there's like traveling restrictions. So it really depends on where you are, but
where the country you're from as well.
Exactly. So there are a lot of things, but
seeing the world is
good. I know you don't need to go to New Zealand. You can start by a closer place,
unless you're still
unless New Zealand or in an island that is close. But if you're in Latin America, for example, it is fairly easy to move between countries.
Yeah, and you learn a lot.
So it is totally doable. So I would say yes, go for it.
Go travel. And listen to the podcast while you...
you'd have a lot of hours to... Okay.
That's it. Peace out.